So welcome again to the DS Incubator. Today we are on the last meetup of the series about working with the terminal. This meetup in particular complements the previous one, which was about working a multi-level system from the perspective of a normal user. And today we're going to be working in a multi-level system, acting as the administrator, playing the two roles really. There's a use case that motivates this meetup, which is the idea of installing software, which installing software across the system is, of course, an action that may impact multiple users, and thus is something that only administrators or people acting as administrators can do. So you have to have special privileges for that. This software I want to be installing is just one of the many things that you could install. It's called OhmyZSH. It's an enhancer of your terminal. Makes your terminal look pretty as this one, with colors, with the name of the branch where you're standing if you're in a Git repo, with some shortcuts to navigate your file system, with some aliases or many aliases that are quite common, so a lot of people know about them. So a lot of great stuff. So usually you would go to a link like install OhmyZSH and copy the instructions, which is basically copy this and paste it. But we're gonna see in a moment that life is not so simple, and that will expose precisely the topic that I want to cover, which is the privileges to install things across the system. Specifically, the objectives are to understand what are the limits and the powers of normal users versus administrators. Also, that there is this command called sudo, which kind of stands for super user doer, that allows you to run commands as administrators. Also, the command apt-get, which in many systems, most servers allow you to install software, and to understand how normal users actually become administrators. So what's the process for that? As usual, the meetup has a dedicated document. In this case, it is the last one here, folder number 5, install software. And so I'm gonna use this computer environment that I have here. You can use it if you want, you don't have to, by cloning the repo that hosts this meetup, then changing directory into it, and then running Docker Compose app. So I'm gonna move this to my right. You can see my WhatsApp messages at the background, which you probably shouldn't. I'm gonna open the terminal here, paste what I got from there. Actually, that will print a bunch of output, so I'm going to do a -D to detach the output from the terminal so it doesn't clutter my terminal. And now I can move this to the right, make it a little smaller. And we're going to address the very first question, which is what are the limits and powers of normal users and administrators? So the thingy that I did there allows me now to go to a web browser and log into that server. So let's make this bigger. So the address is this one. So as a user of a multi-user system, I have a username. It could be Mauro, but in this system is RStudio. And I have a password that the administrators gave me, or they gave me and then I changed, because every user can change their own password, of course, and they should. So now I'm logged into this server. So this server, the front face of this server is an RStudio session, which is intentional for to advertise in this audience that working in a remote computer doesn't have to be something scary. Working from a remote computer might mean for you something identical to the experience that you have when you work locally. But today the focus is not RStudio, it is instead the terminal. So let's go there. I don't need anything other than the terminal. So I'm gonna move it here to the left and have my notes to the right. So okay, so I touched on that a moment ago, the idea that if you're going to do something like install software across the system, because there is potential impact for multiple users, then a normal user would not be able to do that. You have to have super privileges to be able to perform actions that might affect other users, right, beyond the scope of your own privileges. So that is why, if you copy the instructions that come from OhmyZSH and naively paste them there, it would fail. It would fail for permissions, but it also would fail for something else. You will see that first. So let's address one issue at a time. The first issue that we see here is that this program that we are trying to install requires another software that is called ZSH, because that is the software that this tool enhances, that we need to install first. So first we need to install then that thing. So we need to talk about apt-get. So apt -get is something similar to, if you are an R user, to install the packages, right? It is a function that allows you to install software. But then where the software comes from, if we go back to the analogy of R users, the software might come from, the actual CRAN repository, or it might come from a mirror of that repository that is hosted by RStudio, or by the package manager of RStudio, or by like a myriad of other places. So there is, somewhere there is information about which repository you want to use, and that is the case for R. Same thing here for an entire system. There is a registry that has addresses of different places where you might want to install software. And the best practice is that every time you're going to install any software, the first thing you do is you update that registry. That's always what you're going to see in tutorials. So that's why I wanted to say that here. So when I naively try to run that, that is the first time we're going to see the problem that is motivating the topic of today. So permission denied now is giving us an indication that with the privileges that we have as the user RStudio, we have no power to install this software, at least not in this way. We may be able to install it in a different location, one that we do have powers to do whatever we want, but not across the entire system. So, okay, let's get to that. So how can we actually do it? Well, there's two ways, or at least two actors that could do such a thing. One is the administrator of the entire system, which is a user called root by convention in every system. So you may, in some systems, be the root user, and then that command would have worked. But if not, then there is another option. Some users may belong to a group of users called sudo, for super user doers, and they act on behalf of root. So let me clear this up, Control L to clear the console. So if I type groups, that groups is a command basically that tells you to which group the user RStudio belongs. So here we're seeing three groups. The user RStudio belongs to the group RStudio as well, and every user does belong to a group that has their own name. Also belongs to the group sudo, which is what we care about, and belongs to another group called staff, but we don't care about that. So the fact that RStudio belongs to the group sudo means that RStudio can type first the word sudo, which is a command, and anything that they type after that will be run as if it was run by the account root. So to prove that, I can run the command who am I. So you may remember that I ran that command a moment ago, and we got as output RStudio. So you may hope that that's exactly what we're going to get. And the answer is no, we're going to get root, because sudo, the prefix sudo as a command, makes any other command be interpreted as if it was run by root. Right? So now we can do this, use this new knowledge to do something more interesting than just printing the name of the user. We can actually use it to run the command that failed before, apt-get update, to update the registry of potential sources for packages. Let's make this a little smaller. And then after that, we are going to install the software that we were told by the error message that we needed to install, which is that ZSH program, which is simply a terminal similar to Bash, but it has other features. And this is the one that, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That is the one that the software we're installing now works with. So the registry has been updated. Let me clear this up. Before I did Control L, this time I just typed clear, which is the command that does that. So now let me paste with sudo apt-get install. It looks like there was a typo in apg as opposed to apt, apt-get install. I forgot to type the name ZSH, which is the name of the software I want to install. Now I mistyped sudo, so complicated. Let's clear this up one more time. Sudo apt-get install ZSH. So now that works, and we have to confirm that we want to do what we want to do. And in a moment, we're gonna get the software. I'm gonna be asked to also. No, actually, we just installed ZSH, so now we can actually follow the instructions that we got from this page. So we all finally got to this point where we can just paste that thing. Let's clear this up. I'm gonna paste that, and that is the the software ZSH, Oh My ZSH itself. So already see how beautiful the colors are. At least I find them beautiful. The terminal prompt changed a little bit, as you can see. And now, to demonstrate very few of the features that you can, enjoy with Oh My ZSH, I'm gonna show you a little demo. This is not the focus of the meetup. The meetup is, to learn about privileges and users and stuff. But still, I think this is pretty cool. So as you learned how to install this software, you might as well learn what you can do with it. So first, let me.
Mauro, I just want to say 20 minutes in.
Thank you. Thanks. I think I'm gonna take up about 5 minutes and then another 5 minutes for questions. First thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to be using Git in a moment, so I'm going to tell Git who I am. So I do git config, global user email, and global username. This is just configurations for Git, so Git knows who I am. Let me clear that up because that's not super interesting. Let's initialize a repository. Let's call it ABC. And now let's change directory to ABC. And now you see something interesting. We see the name of the place where we are standing, which is pretty cool. It's not the default in many terminals. And also we see that we are in a Git repo and we know the branch name. We are by default in the branch called master. So we could also create a new branch. Usually you could do something like, git, say checkout -b for branch and the name of the branch, say call it new. But Oh My ZSH comes with a bunch of aliases that are pretty common, so you can do something like git checkout branch GCB and just the name of the branch, and that will create the branch, and we already moved to that one already. Let's do a few more things. So git status short gives you the status. You can see that the staging area detected a couple of files that are not being tracked, so we can add them to the staging area with git add all. And now GSS will give us that those files have been added. So git commit add message initialize, and that's the alias for git commit add -a. Git commit add and -m for message. Anyway, so just to demonstrate that there is a bunch of aliases that come with this terminal, and the log is also very pretty. It tells you, the branches that you have with different colors, the user, how long ago the commit was made. Really, really cool. Okay, so enough about, well, not enough actually. I can show you that, for example, with tilde, you immediately go to the home directory without doing the cd. Okay, that is all I wanted to show you about the demo of the tool that we have installed and of the use case that we use to motivate this meetup. But now let's cover the last question, which is how do administrators gain their super user powers? And the answer is because giving someone the ability to do something across the entire system is something that affects potentially the entire system, then it makes sense that the only users that can add other users to the system and also to the group of users that are privileged to do anything, those users should be also super users. So first, let's see who am I here in this system. I'm still RStudio. So let's do a sudo. So we need to use a command, to run a command that affects the entire system. That is the idea of add a user. And we're going to add the user Mauro in this case. So now we are asked to give a password to Mauro. We may type a temporary one, give it to Mauro, and then hey Mauro, tell them that they should change it for one that is more secure. Then you can confirm a lot of the information for the user, and now the user Mauro could log in as Mauro, and they have to enter the password. And now you can see that if I type who am I, now this is Mauro. But by default, a normal user added by a super user, the normal user will not belong to the group sudo. It will just belong to the group that has their own name. So that means that Mauro cannot do sudo something like apt get, for example, update. Right? That will fail. Okay, we can enter the password, but still will fail because Mauro is not in the group of super users. But they can exit that and log out of the system, and now we are RStudio back again, but RStudio can do sudo add user Mauro, but now also add them to the group sudo. So that is all that a super user has to do to transform another normal user into a super user doer. So that's all. Then now Mauro could log into the system as Mauro. As Mauro with their password, and now Mauro does belong to the group sudo, as you can see there, meaning that they can also do something like sudo apt get update or any command that require super user privileges, including adding new users. So that is to demonstrate that command works, and that's all I wanted to cover. So let's walk very quickly through the takeaways. So first, the administrators can use the command sudo. So an administrator is such if they belong to the group sudo, and they can use the command sudo to run system level commands, and normal users cannot. Administrators can create new administrators, as I just showed you, by adding them to the group sudo. And in most servers and many of your local computers, if you're running Linux, the command apt-get is what you want to install software. Best practice is to always run apt-get update, and then update apt-get install and the name of the software. And if you are not the root user, then you need to prefix this with sudo. Otherwise, you can just go without. All right, that's it. We still have 4 minutes for any comment if there is anything here. No, I'm not surprised. We have an audience here of people with a lot of experience in this. But also I want to acknowledge that the idea of multi-user systems, and particularly from the perspective of the administrator, is something that not a lot of people have experience on. I include myself in that until very recently. Even well into my profession as a software developer, I didn't understand that very well. And this meetup itself is great to learn myself some of these concepts, more formally, as opposed to just by doing them. So with this, I'm saying that if you found this super fast, it's true. It was super fast. The meetups in general are more focused to people that are not administering other systems. But for completion, I wanted to cover it. And with this, we just close the session, close the series. And next time, we will come back with some other topic. If we don't have the parting words, then I thank you all very much and see you next time.
Thank you, Mauro.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.